Hello, Facebook land. My name is Nicole Block, and I am your host for Hints from HR. Per usual, we have my partner in crime, Becca Ramadi, our VP for TAAEF, with us. And Blaze couldn't make it, but we will hopefully he's watching and taking copious notes. He was unable to join us today, but he'll be back next week. As usual, we wanted to explain kind of why we are here for Hints from HR. We talk through maybe challenges or opportunities that we see in our industry with some of our industry professionals. And today we have a fantastic opportunity to speak with Kristi DeCarlo. She's with Luma Residential. She is their director of recruiting. And she has some fantastic ideas that she and her company have implemented that we're going to talk about. We think hopefully give you some ideas to scale. So without further ado, I want to give Kristi an opportunity to introduce herself so she can tell us how she got into the industry and a little bit about what she does. So Kristi, take it away.
Hi, I'm Kristi DeCarlo, and I am the Director of Recruitment for Luma Residential. And I have been in the industry now for over 25 years, and all 25 of those years have been with Luma. And I got my start in the industry much like everyone else. I fell into it by chance. I was in my hometown of Amarillo and wanted to relocate to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And one of my friends worked for Luma, and so she got me an interview. I was hired as a leasing consultant. I was promoted to assistant manager, worked my way up to a property manager, and then eventually as a regional supervisor. And I've been in my current role as director of recruitment since 2008, so for a while now.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys are doing to increase your associates' engagement. But staying in a company for 25 years, that definitely tells a good tale as far as keeping you challenged, your growth and development, but then also keeping you engaged. So I'm excited that some of the things that you're going to share, you're actually living because you've been with the company and have grown with them for 25 years. And shout out to Ian Mattingly again.
Yes.
One of my buddies, and then of course Sherry Jordan as well. So there's my shameless plugs. But we are so happy that Luma loaned you to us today. So thank you again for your time.
I'm happy to be here.
So the first
thing, Kristi is also a representative on TAAEF HR Council, which
fantastic.
is really where this idea for Hints from HR came from. So thank you for that, Kristi, and for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. No, and it's fantastic to see the ideas that the HR Council brings and kind of see them all kind of fleshed out and live and in person and really having a great impact. So we appreciate the dedication to Luma and to you, Kristi, on the HR Council.
Thank you so much.
So the first thing that we're going to talk about is, an interesting take on something that we've all probably heard about. I mean, I think that it's commonplace. We've talked about it on some of the other podcasts about assessments that we take, and maybe sometimes when you're interviewing or considering hiring someone and or managing them. But we'd love to talk about the DISC assessment. And really, if you're not familiar with the DISC assessment, maybe you can give us a quick overview, Kristi. We'll share all of our scores just so you guys know. We've taken the assessment, some of us multiple times, and then we can talk about how you guys use it at Luma, because I think it's a little bit different than how people might use it in the rest of the industry. So can you give us an overview, first of all, of kind of what the DISC assessment is, and then we can go from there.
Absolutely. And we've used the Achiever and DISC assessment combo from IHD Corp for over 15 years. And the DISC is the main one that lets us know the different personalities. It truly helps us celebrate like the differences between us, each unique person. And so like DISC, the 4 distinct personalities, and there's different combinations of those, but D basically stands for someone who's a very dominant personality. I is someone who's influential. It's usually our leasing members, likes around people, likes to talk. S stands for steadiness. And so that's typically your maintenance people. They're very steady, dependable, like not too much change. They're someone that you can depend on. And then your high C's are like your assistant managers and a lot of our property managers as well. That's someone who is compliant. They like to do stuff right, and which we love.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for that overview. I think sometimes think of a DISC assessment, people don't know where it really, makes that up. And I think that the point is that you can be more than one, because it's a point system. So you have so many points to give. So if most of your points are on one, you might be, again, a high D, but you might find there are some people that are Maybe all four. So let's talk a little bit about the panels that people have on the call here. So Becca, tell us a little bit about your assessment, what you came in at.
Well, I just took it yesterday for the first time. I've taken some other things, but not this one before. And I was an I, a pretty high I with a side of C, right?
Okay, sounds like you're ordering something. I'll take a high I with a side of C. And then tell us a little bit, Kristi, about what you are.
I am a high C with a secondary D. And so I'm very compliant. I like to do stuff right and know that I'm doing it right for sure.
Yeah. And then I'm what's called a level. So a level means that I score pretty evenly across all categories. They only kind of change by a couple of points here and there. But I think by 2 points, if I had to choose, it's an S. So I'm very steady. So I think that I spelled the disc, which is kind of interesting. But I love it. I love the assessment. I've taken it, I think 4 times, and I still come in I was thinking, I'm going to test this. I'm going to see how steady I really am. But I do love the assessment, and I think that it does help us. But I'm intrigued because you guys don't use it to hire people. So in the past, I've used it for team dynamics and trying to make sure this person fits in with what, we're looking for. But tell us how you guys use it at Luma Residential.
Well, we have all of our employees take the assessments their first week of employment, typically their first day. And it's shared with our property managers, service managers, our regional supervisors, training director, even our executive team receives copies of everyone's assessments.
Wow.
That way we know how that person is motivated, how they like to be recognized. It's such a valuable tool because everyone is so different. Our high I's, they like us to shout it from the rooftops when they get a lease or something like that. Whereas our maintenance people like to be pulled aside and told specifically, hey, you did a great job by taking care of that resident. And they like to have that kind of recognition. So everyone is so different, and that really is a valuable tool for us.
Well, and one of the things that we talked about yesterday, whenever we were prepping for this call, was that it's not a one and done. And so I think, in many times, and I know in my history and several of our colleagues, you take the assessment, it's a point in time, and because it's more for a hiring decision, it's not really utilized. And so
Right.
for you guys to constantly refer back to it, talk through it, in leadership conversations, gauge your recognition and rewards and engage, and how you keep them engaged and motivated. I think that's telling because you're keeping it at the forefront. This is their personality. It's not a predictor necessarily of performance. I know you guys have that achiever piece that you guys added to it, but how have you found that to work with the engagement? Do you find that it translates? Tell me a little bit more about how you've seen it be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Our property managers actually take a course of training so they know exactly, understand each aspect of the DISC and each personality. They go through that training. And then our regional supervisors as well. I know one of our regional supervisors recently sent her managers back through the training just so they understand exactly how that DISC works and how they can reward and motivate their employees.
Well, and with turnover, I think that's a challenge. And for, I think that's great for your regional supervisor to recognize that and say, hey, either we need a refresher on it, or there's been turnover, or there's some reason, again, just to keep it at the forefront. But kind of kicking it back to the job seeker, Becca and I were talking about this, is that, that's a fantastic, thing to know about Luma Residential, because, they are keeping the growth and development piece and the communication piece really, again, at the forefront. So if I'm a job seeker coming in, maybe you're new to the industry, maybe you're new to assessments, you're able to take a look at yourself, and it teaches you to look at others and really learn to work together as a team. And without some guidance there, it could be tricky. So I think that that's fantastic that you guys do it and they handle it that way. And again, keep it consistent. Like, this is something that you guys really have bought into. It's not just a one and done.
Absolutely.
Well, it's so thoughtful too. You're really wanting to recognize people in a way that they want to be recognized, just not what's easiest for the company or for that moment. And, that's really important for a job seeker to know that, or think about those types of things when looking at where they want to work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, and I think if you are out there in Facebook Live land and you currently use the DISC assessment or any assessment, how often do you go back and use that in your coaching? How often do you go back and use that, or train your managers. I think that's fantastic that you're training the managers and the regional managers on how to, really coach through that assessment. So fantastic thing that you guys are doing there, and continue. I'm sure it's just second nature to you, but I can tell you it's not second nature to a lot of us. So I think we can learn a little bit there.
Absolutely.
So the next thing that we'd love to discuss is your summer programs. This is something that I think also helps to kind of mitigate some tough times during the summer, but I also hope that it has impacted your engagement. So can you tell us a little bit about the summer programs you guys offer at Luma Residential?
Definitely. And in our industry, as we all know, our summer months can be our busiest months. It's called leasing season and AC season for a reason. They're super busy, can be very stressful months. And about 10 years ago, we started a summer help program. So we hire for summer groundskeeper, and on some of our properties, we also hire for summer leasing. And it's an extra set of hands for our staff members during those busy summer months. It shows that we care about them to give them that extra help and they really need it. Yeah. And it's open to anyone ages 14 and up, anyone that complies with the federal laws. So anyone 14 and up, and we often hire employees' kids, residents' kids, residents, and it's an awesome way for them to basically get a paid internship if they're interested in the industry and want to get a job for the summer.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting, you use the word internship. I mean, a lot of people think internships aren't paid, because it's just, I'm going in, I'm going to learn a trade, or I'm going to learn a skill, and that's my payment, right? But people have to eat. So I think sometimes that's not an option for everyone. But I think that's fantastic for you guys to offer and plan for it and budget for it. So this is something, the operators that are in the audience and have their wheels spinning. Yes, this is budgeted. Yes, this is intentional. And that they start planning for it. I think you said you start talking to everyone in about February.
The end of February and March, we start planning it. Our regionals start getting with their property managers and see if they will need that assistance during the summer. So yeah, we plan for it early. That way we can have them hired and ready to start in June through August.
Yeah, and tell me some of the successes that you've had. You mentioned, as far as, yes, it's helping your engagement with your current associates, but hasn't it helped you find some more long-term associates?
I love it at the end of the summer whenever we have some open positions, because many times our summer groundskeeper and summer leasing want to stay on board full-time permanent position, and it helps me fill those open positions, but it also starts a career for those summer help people that we've hired. So I would say 20 to 30% we keep on for full-time positions. It's been a wonderful, wonderful program.
Yeah, I mean, 20 to 30%, that's fantastic. And to your point, you're able to close those open positions that you might have in the end of the summer. And in most of those positions, which I also think is brilliant for Luma, is that those are two very high turnover positions that we have in our industry. So I think that having that bench strength kind of being backfilled is brilliant. But one other thing too, let's think about the current associate. So, if I'm on site, and I have been, and during those crazy times, I have someone coming in to maybe lend an extra set of hands, I know that does take the sting away a little bit, I imagine. So can you talk about the engagement or just the reaction, from your on-site teams for this program?
Whenever we first started this, it truly was, wow, I'm going to get this extra help for the summer months that can be so crazy. Because we have a property that's over by UNT, and as you know, a college property can have a lot of turnover, and just having that extra set of hands for those properties has made a huge difference in the morale of the team, knowing that we care about them and want to give them that help because we want them to succeed.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. I think that it just has so many layers that reinforce each other, as far as kind of what Luma's, mission and their culture, represents. So again, I think it's obviously brilliant. Ian's not paying me to say this, but no, it's very, it's a brilliant idea. And I think it does serve the current associate as well, because it helps alleviate that stress, but it also helps that job seeker, and they get to take Luma for a test drive, and so if they are, and even though you might not hire that, the other 70% or 80% at the end of the summer, when they're looking for full-time employment, whenever that might be, then I think that they'll definitely keep you in mind.
Well, I think it, go ahead, Kristi.
I was just going to say that we do often have them come back summer after summer. We've had them come back year after year. So they love that opportunity to work during the summer and enjoy the position. So it has been good in that aspect as well.
I think the message or the thing for job seekers to also think about is that there are non-traditional ways to try out this industry, and internships or a summer program like this, or we've talked quite a bit about staffing firms as well, are all things to consider because you really can try it out and see if it's a good fit for you.
Sure.
Absolutely. No, I think, and again, we talk about, I mean, your team is your lifeblood of your culture, which, it's just, you have to ensure that team is engaged and motivated and really balanced as much as possible. And we do know that in the summer months, the balance shifts. Although I would say over the past 10 years, it never really comes off. There used to be a time when Q4 was kind of a lull, right, Becca? It was kind of like, crazy summer and then budget season. You kind of get a month or two over the holidays. And I think that that's evaporated. I don't know. I think that, over the past 5 to 10 years, we don't get as much of that rest. So I think that having that help in the summer is crucial. So anything else you want to add on the summer program? I want to make sure we covered it. If not, I would love to talk about your maintenance program as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about our maintenance program. I think we've covered everything on the summer help, so that's great.
Okay, good. So one of my favorite things about this is you call it a maintenance campaign.
Yes.
So I think that by calling it a maintenance campaign, it has staying power, and it definitely is not a one and done type appreciation. Sure. And as you guys may know, in the industry, there are some companies that do a maintenance appreciation day, along with any of the other positions that they have on site. Some communities or companies do a maintenance appreciation week. And I know that that's pretty commonplace, and we should absolutely be thanking our maintenance teams. But Luma takes it to a whole nother level, and Luma Residential actually does a maintenance campaign during the summer months. And so I want Kristi to go into as much detail as possible. I think this is such a rich program for you to share, but talk to us about your maintenance campaign, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. And first I want to say that I have a soft spot for maintenance because my dad did maintenance all of my life growing up. So I know exactly how hard our maintenance teams work. And so I definitely have that soft spot for them. And so for 2 months during the summer, we have a service appreciation campaign. And we start it usually in July through August during those busiest summer months with AC calls, just so they know how much we appreciate them. Our maintenance teams are often our unsung heroes of the properties, especially we found that out even more so during snowpocalypse and COVID. Yeah. Still going into those apartments for emergencies and taking care of our residents. So we want them to know just how much we appreciate them. And so each week we plan out something different.
Hold on, let me go back really quickly. So I want you guys to hear what she said. So for 2 months, each week. So sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make sure no one misses that at all. That you have at least 8 touch points that are consistent. So sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make sure no one missed that you said each week. All right. And you're on.
Absolutely. And we kick that off with a kickoff meeting. Basically, we have them fill out a little questionnaire. That way we know all of their favorite things, from their favorite drinks, favorite snacks, favorite foods, favorite tacos, because we do have a Taco Tuesday week and bring them all lunch. And we kick that off and give them breakfast. That way we know exactly how to reward them all summer with that. And just some examples would be like one day we take the temperature outside and we let them have that time, the temperature outside that time for their lunch break. So if it's 95 degrees outside, we let them have a 95-minute lunch break.
They're pulling for that 105. When it really finally hits the 105, they're like, can this be the week? Can this be the week?
Come on. And so just a bunch of fun things like that. Take them to Sonic and get their favorite drink. It's something easy to do and just lets them know how much they're appreciated. And
yeah, well, and I think it's consistent, and I'm sure that it feels authentic. Think about what you said with your DISC assessment and how you really try to work that into your rewards, recognition, and engagement and motivation platform. Is it, these are high S's, these are high C's. Yeah. So by coming in personally and doing a gesture from me to you, I see you, I thank you, here's something little, that bond is created, and I think that Definitely. They feel, hopefully, that their work is recognized. And so I think the consistency by doing it every, week for 8 weeks, it's not a one and done. It's not just, oh, here's a card and I'm not trying to, here's a card and thank you so much. It's not that, it's just maybe the sentiment gets lost in it. So it could be a more effective way to deliver that information. So I think that, when I heard that, I mean, Becca and I were like, our jaws just dropped when we were hearing about that in the download yesterday. But again, it's, if you're doing the right things, and it's going to show up in your engagement. You're going to have associates that have been there 25 years. You're going to have associates that, are highly engaged. I was fortunate enough to meet the service team for Luma Residential about 1.5 years ago, and they were all very dialed in, and they were all very, dedicated to a company that's dedicated to them. And I think there's ways we show our dedication. That's through growth and development. Again, those DISC assessments. That's through getting us help when we need it. That's, through those summer programs. Those came from ideas. And I love that you guys are willing to try something new and see, how it works. But then this maintenance campaign is just a wonderful example.
It's great that it's in the summer as well, during that busy and difficult and sweaty time. I think that's really great. I wanted to note for everyone that NAAEI usually has Apartment Careers Month in April, but they've moved it this year to be Apartment Careers Week. That's going to be July 12th through 16th. And the 14th will be APT Teams Day, which they had last year, which was very successful. And the other days will each have a theme. And I believe that maintenance will be one of them. So that can probably connect into your maintenance team, but doing it in the summer seems to just mean so much more.
Sure.
Yes. Well, and I think that, one of the things we discussed, Kristi, yesterday was, truly making an investment. That's one thing I think, we all have budgets, we all have financial outcomes that we need to produce as a company. We all own businesses and we operate them. But these, the summer programs and the maintenance campaigns, these are all budgeted items. So your company is investing, in your associate. They're investing that money. And but I would also say that it pays off in dividends because you're the director of recruitment. So how much turnover costs, right? You know how much every time someone leaves for whatever reason, that there's a cost associated with that. And so if you can talk a little bit about Luma's turnover, which, not to be a spoiler, but I hear it's pretty low. But I think that you're kind of talking through how you guys track that turnover, because I want people that are considering adding this to their, the cost, if you will, as an investment, that it really ends up paying off, dividends in the future.
Yes, and I actually looked on the NAA website today to see what the turnover has been like the last 10 years for the nation. And it's been around 40% for maintenance, which is just crazy. And then I compare that to ours. Ours has been around 30%, so 10% less. I even had a year about 4 years ago where our service manager turnover was 10% that year. So really, really low turnover. And we actually have a dedicated recognition committee. So on that recognition committee, there's leasing, maintenance, regionals, executive people, and we all work together to try to develop that recognition for our sites. We all came up with the maintenance planning from those committee meetings.
Yeah, well, and again, think about that. And if the average was 40%, there's probably some companies out there in Facebook lands right now that are more than 40% because that's the average. Right. And so for you to be 30%, you're balancing that 50% person over here, right? So those are opportunities, and these are some of the things that Luma Residential has put into place, and it's showing up in the numbers. I mean, it's proven. And when there's consistency, then your residents, are going to be, feeling that positivity, and they're going to also renew, which is, again, good for your bottom line. But let's talk a little bit more as we end our time here today. We'll talk about engagement. We talked about turnover and how you guys on your maintenance team is, on average 10% lower than the national average. But how do you ensure that you are delivering what they're wanting as far as culture? Now, you hinted a little bit about that recognition committee, but how do you survey? What do you do to get the answers to the test, basically, what they're looking for?
Absolutely. And I like to say that with Luma Residential, we definitely have a family culture. And think about your family as a family member. You want your family member to have the tools that they need. You want them to succeed. you want the very best for them. And that really is what Luma Residential wants for all of our employees. That's why we have that recognition in place. And
Sure.
we encourage education. Ian Mattingly is a president of our company. He's the president of the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas, and education is very, very big for our company. And we use all of those aspects, the recognition, the education, the family atmosphere to reward our employees.
Well, and don't you survey them? I think that I think we had noted that too. You know, a survey is a double-edged sword, because if you're unwilling or unable to make any changes, then why ask the question? I've heard that 1,000 times. You know, it's like, well, they asked me and then they didn't do anything about it, right? So it's like, what happens there? So tell me a little bit about how you guys survey and what you do with that information.
Absolutely. We use constant contact throughout the year for different surveys. Just when we're planning an event or something like that, we get all of our employees' feedback so that they are bought into that event or that training or whatever it is. Right now we're inquiring about the vaccine and how we can get that to all of our employees. But we also use the Dallas Morning News. We've surveyed with them a few times for their Top Workplaces campaign, and that really provides valuable feedback because it gives us so much information about what our employees' wants and needs are, and their feedback on leadership. And we did earn the Top Workplaces, in the top 150 workplaces for 2 years in a row, I'm happy to say.
Wow, congratulations. That's awesome.
Very valuable feedback as well.
Yeah, well, and feedback, you know, as we mentioned before, you know, is by itself, you know, worthless unless you're going to do something about it, right? So we have to make sure that if, you know, that you guys have a plan in mind. And that's one of the things I would probably, you know, kind of end our conversation with, is that, you know, all of these things take planning. You know, when you talk about the summer program, you start talking about that in February, and you start, you know, sourcing your candidates and make sure that the need matches what you're delivering. When you're talking about the maintenance program, campaign, the maintenance campaign, you all start to talk about that months before, because you want to ensure all of the, you know, property managers are on board, that everyone understands the expectation or has the supplies that they need, you know, because the worst thing would be is that, you know, sister community over here is like rocking and rolling every week, and this one's like, oh, the manager is on vacation, right? So it's just having a plan. You know, I've been encouraged hearing that how much you guys plan. So I think sometimes people think that, you know, culture happens in the moment, and there's parts of it that do. I mean, don't get me wrong, but you also can plan to ensure you're making time for the rewards and recognition. You know, to look at the survey results, do something about it. You know, the committee that you guys formed, what was it called again? I'm sorry, the recognition committee.
Recognition committee. Yes.
Yeah. So the recognition committee, you know, they're meeting on a set cadence, and they're taking that information and doing something with it. And that's another piece for the job seeker. You know, maybe one day if I come and I'm a leasing consultant, then that could be a goal of mine, is to get, how do I get on the recognition committee, or how do I get, you know, to help plan the maintenance campaigns? And those are just really powerful, you know, and I think it uses all the letters of the DISC assessment, you know, so you're able to take everybody's, you know, everyone's strengths and, you know, and apply it into something that is manageable and consistent, and really is providing great NOI. I mean, obviously, if your turnover is really 10% below the average, you know, that's fantastic. That's showing what you're doing is proving up in your numbers.
Definitely.
Which is really all we can ask for. Anything else that you would want to add? I mean, I know that this is your plug for Luma Residential. I'm sure that Sherry and Ian gave you a script of things to mention.
I can't say enough wonderful things about Luma Residential. I've been with the company more than half my life, and I have to give a shout out to Sherry Jordan and all of our amazing regionals, because without them, you know, those maintenance programs and that recognition wouldn't happen, because they make it happen. It's an awesome company to work for. Just great friendships, family, team.
Oh, it looks like, you know what?
Good timing.
Good timing. So Kristi is going to end our Facebook Live session. I know she's having some internet issues, so we made it to 29 minutes, girl. So thank you again. You know, Facebook Live, you guys have been fantastic. Becca, as
Can't
always, great. Oh, there she is.
She's back.
You froze a little bit. Not bad. But thank you, Kristi. Thank you, Luma Residential, for loaning Kristi to us. We appreciate what you're doing for our industry, and we can't wait to see what else there is and what more to come from Luma Residential. And for anyone listening to this, we hope that you ask the right questions, and hopefully you can scale some of this into your company. So With that, we wish you a fantastic Wednesday. And thank you again, Kristi. Thank you, Becca. And I'm Nicole Block, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.